This last page here, or second to last page actually, because the last page really has hot buttons. But these last two pages really are worksheets. And what we want to have you do as a next step is to think about all of what we've talked about this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And looking again at your report, you can see the actual scores that you've received for each of the raters, self, boss, peers, direct reports, are already tabulated here for you,
Mm-hmm.
for each of the behaviors. And what we want to do is have you take a look at each of the 15 behaviors and identify whether it's an area of strength or a developmental opportunity, depending on whether the score is above or below the average. And then from that, you'll be able to, at the bottom, tabulate for each category of raters what might be the highest priority to focus on for that particular group of people. Because as we saw, it might be different for your boss
Right.
from your direct reports. And this will be a way of beginning to sort of distill it down, so you might have one or two things to work on. Because we know that you can't successfully work on 7 or 8 things typically. But finding the one or two that will give you the most leverage and the most movement forward, and the ones you feel ready to take the risk on, and this will help, I think, zero in. Similarly, there's the worksheet for the hot buttons that lists the 9 hot buttons here that we talked about, and if we maybe didn't say, but it's worth noting that there are other hot buttons people might have that might be more specific, like being cut off in traffic or people, smoking too close by. But mostly those kind of become specific examples of one of these. But these are broad categories of hot buttons, and you can see your scores here. And you can look and say, are there any of them that are a little higher? As you pointed out earlier, you don't like abrasive people or self-centered people. Those are your 2 of your highest scores. So the question is, how important is it for you to do this cooling, during the time when someone might be pushing one of your hot buttons? What can you do to just not let that get to you and stay cool? And there's various techniques: counting to 10, taking a deep breath, meditation, prayer, relaxation. Different kinds of strategies, taking perspective and trying to understand. There's a variety of ways to do that, but the key is, how do we not let self-centered people, when they behave in a self-centered way, or people who behave abrasively, not let that prompt you to behave in a habitual way of being less than constructive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So by looking at this page and the worksheet, we then can have you pull together some ideas that are contained here in the development guide.
Okay.
And this has got a wealth of information that I think, used in conjunction with these worksheets, will provide a nice foundation for next developmental steps. Let me stop here for a second and ask, what's been your perception of all this, now that we've gone through it, your first reactions as you get started with the next step? But let's put some closure on this step.
It definitely uncovered some things that I kind of thought about myself, but never had any data to back it up. So it's nice to actually have the actual data, and I am a data-driven person, so it's nice to be able to have a tool that I can reflect back on and go back to and think about and sleep on, and that's kind of my process, so that is helpful. And it helped explain some things on why I was getting the reactions I currently get. And I already have some ideas going in my head of things that I really want to focus on in the future. So it was helpful.
Great. Well, there'll be time for you to digest this and go through the worksheets, and then the next steps will be in the development coaching process that you're involved in. Great. Well, thank you very much. It's been very pleasant morning.
Well, thank you. My direct reports will thank you, I'm sure.